first light of dawn was a shy painter brushing soft strokes of peach and lavender across the Seoul skyline. Inside a quiet, warm apartment in the Hannam-dong district, the world was still and peaceful. The only sound was the soft, rhythmic hum of a humidifier, and the even softer breathing of the tiny human cradled in Y/N's arms Y/N, whispering, "SHHH, my little love, Appa is still sleeping." She looked down at her son, Soo-min. His perfect rosebud mouth pursed even in sleep. He was the spitting image of his father, with the same dark, expressive eyes and a little tuft of jet black hair. At 3 months old, he had already wrapped his tiny fingers around both his parents' hearts, completely from the doorway, leaning against the frame. Jungkook watched them, his heart, a muscle he thought was strong from years of performing on stage, felt impossibly fragile and full at the sight. His wife, bathed in the gentle morning light, looked like a goddess of serenity. His son, a perfect, tiny miracle in her arms. He padded into the room on silent feet, his own hair adorably mussed from sleep. JK couldn't sleep again. His voice, husky with sleep, was a familiar comfort. Y/N looked up, a tired but happy smile gracing her lips. Y/N. He was a little fussy. "I think he's just hungry, but he's not latching well today." A tiny frown creased Jungkook's brow. He knelt beside the rocking chair, his large, tattooed hand coming to rest gently on Soo-min's back. His fingers looked enormous against the baby's small frame. JK. "He feels so small. Y/N. I'm always afraid I'll break him. Y/N. Softly, you won't. You're his Appa. Your hands are his safest place, next to mine." Jungkook looked from his son's face to his wife's. He saw the faint shadows under her eyes, a testament to the countless sleepless nights. A profound wave of love and protectiveness washed over him. He had faced screaming crowds of thousands, but the quiet challenge of caring for his newborn son and his incredible wife was the most daunting and rewarding thing he had ever done. Just then, Soo-min began to stir, his little face scrunching up as a soft whimper escaped his lips. It quickly escalated into a full-blown, hungry cry. Y/N. All right, my hungry boy. Uma's here." She adjusted her position, trying to help Soo-min feed, but the baby, frustrated and hungry, kept turning his head away, his cries growing more distressed. Y/N's shoulders slumped in exhaustion and a hint of frustration. Y/N. "He just won't settle. He did this yesterday too. I don't know what's wrong." Jungkook's heart ached seeing them both in distress. He reached out, his thumb gently wiping away a stray tear of frustration that had escaped Y/N's IJK. "Hey, it's okay. You're doing amazing. Both of you are." He watched the struggle for a moment longer, an idea, tender and intimate, beginning to form in his mind. It was a little bold, perhaps, but seeing his wife's fatigue and his son's hunger, it felt like the most natural solution in the world. He took a deep breath. JK. Y/N, let me help. Y/N looked at him, confused. Y/N. How, Kook? You can't exactly. Her words trailed off as she saw the look in his eyes. It was a mixture of unwavering love, a spark of playful mischief, and deep, sincere tenderness. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that was for her ears only. JK, let me show him how it's done. The air in the room seemed to still. Y/N's eyes widened slightly, a flush creeping up her neck. His meaning was clear, and it sent a jolt of something warm and thrilling through her exhaustion. Y/N. Jungkook, what? He's right here. JK, smiling softly, I know. And he's our son. There's nothing in this world more pure or natural. Let me show our baby boy that Uma's milk is the best thing in the world. Let me guide him. His words were not laden with lust, but with a profound sense of love and a desire to bridge the gap between their struggle and a solution. He was offering himself as a conduit of comfort for both her and their child. In that moment, under the soft gaze of the morning sun, it didn't feel strange. It felt like love in its most raw and beautiful form. Y/N. The most profound conversations often happen without words. Here, in the quiet of their nursery, a new kind of language is about to be spoken, one of touch, trust, and an unbreakable bond. Let's lean in and listen, with our hearts. Y/N's breath hitched. Jungkook's proposal was so intimate, so wildly outside the realm of anything she had ever imagined, that for a second, she was speechless. But as she looked into his eyes, those deep, earnest brown eyes that had confessed his love to her on a starlit beach and promised forever in a chapel, all her hesitation melted away. This was Jungkook, her husband, the father of her child. His intentions were woven from the purest threads of his soul. Soo-min's cries grew more insistent, a tiny, desperate sound that broke the last of her resolve. Y/N, nodding slowly, her voice a whisper. Okay. That single word was a universe of trust. Jungkook's smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. He carefully, ever so gently, took the squirming baby from her arms. JK, SHHH, Soo-min. Appa's got you. He cradled his son against his chest, his deep voice rumbling a soft, nonsensical lullaby. The baby's cries softened to whimpers, soothed by the vibration of his father's voice and the steady, strong heartbeat beneath his ear. Then, Jungkook turned his attention back to Y/N. The atmosphere shifted, becoming charged with a tender intimacy. He kept one hand securely on Soo-min's back and used the other to gently touch Y/N's chin, tilting her face up to his. JK, you are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. My Y/N, the mother of my child. He leaned in and pressed a soft, lingering kiss to her forehead. It was a kiss of reverence. Then he lowered his head, his movements slow and deliberate, giving her every opportunity to change her mind. Y/N's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of love, nerves, and overwhelming affection as his lips made contact with the sensitive skin of her breast. A sharp, electric jolt shot through her. It wasn't sexual. It was primal, deeply connective. Her eyes fluttered closed. She felt the gentle suction pull of his mouth. A familiar sensation now given a completely new context. He was so careful, so tender. He wasn't taking, he was demonstrating, learning, loving. After a moment, he pulled back. A tiny, precious drop of milk on his full lower lip. He looked up at her, his eyes dark and full of AJK. "It's so sweet," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. No wonder he's obsessed. He then shifted Soo-min in his arms, positioning the baby with an expert tenderness that always surprised Y/N. He gently guided their son's head, his thumb stroking the baby's cheek to trigger the rooting reflex JK. "See, Soo-min, like this. This is where you find comfort. This is Uma's love. It's right here." He helped the baby latch on, this time, whether soothed by his father's presence, the demonstration, or simply his growing hunger. Soo-min latched perfectly. The frantic, hungry sounds were replaced by the soft, contented gulps of a feeding baby. A profound silence filled the room, broken only by that sound. Tears welled in Y/N's eyes and spilled over, tracing warm paths down her cheeks. They were not tears of sadness or frustration, but of overwhelming, soul-deep love. Jungkook, still kneeling before her, reached up and caught one with his thumb. JK. "Why are you crying, my love?" Y/N. Voice trembling. "Because I love you. I love you so much it feels like my heart is too big for my chest." He smiled, that beautiful, eye-crinkling smile that was reserved only for her and their son JK. "Good, because my heart has been yours since the day I met you. It just grew 2 sizes the day he was born." He stayed there, kneeling, one hand on his son's back, the other holding Y/N's hand, his thumb drawing soothing circles on her skin. They were a triangle of love, a complete and unbreakable unit, bathed in the golden light of a new day. A/N. Life, especially with a new baby, is a symphony composed of chaotic, beautiful, and quiet moments. This particular morning, a new movement begins, one of soft laughter, shared secrets, and the comforting presence of family. Let's listen to their symphony. The rest of the morning passed in a warm, hazy blur. Soo-min, finally full and content, had fallen into a deep, milky sleep in his crib. The tension that had filled the nursery had completely dissolved, replaced by a cozy, domestic peace. Y/N was in the kitchen, preparing a late breakfast, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. The memory of Jungkook's tender act played on a loop in her mind, warming her from the inside out. Suddenly, strong arms wrapped around her waist from behind, and a familiar chin nestled on her shoulder. JK. "Something smells good, almost as good as you." Y/N laughed, leaning back into his solid warmth. Y/N. "It's just kimchi Jeon, your favorite, JK. Everything you make is my favorite." He nuzzled her neck, placing a soft kiss just below her ear. the simple affection sent a pleasant shiver down her spine. This was their normal, the easy touches, the quiet compliments. But today, it felt heightened, more profound. Their peaceful bubble was popped by the cheerful chime of the doorbell, followed by the sound of the passcode being entered. JK, that'll be Jin Hyung. He said he was stopping by to spoil his nephew. Sure enough, Kim Seok-jin, looking impossibly handsome and chic in a simple sweater and jeans, waltzed into the apartment carrying an oversized teddy bear and a bag from a famous patisserie Jin. Yeah, where is the world's most handsome nephew? And I suppose the baby is cute too. Y/N giggled as Jin enveloped her in a warm, brotherly hug. Y/N. Hello, Oppa. Soo-min just went down for a nap. Jin, A-ish, of course. He knows his cool uncle is here and is playing hard to get. He then turned to Jungkook, eyeing him critically. You look well rested for a new father. Did you finally learn how to sleep through the crying? Jungkook just smirked, a secret, knowing look in his eyes as he glanced at Y/N. She felt a blush rise to her cheeks. JK. We had a good morning. A breakthrough. Jin, ever perceptive, noticed the charged look that passed between them. He raised an elegant eyebrow. Jin. A breakthrough, you say? That sounds interesting. Did one of you finally figure out how to assemble the diaper genie without reading the instructions? Y/N. Stammering, something like that. Just then, the doorbell rang again, and soon the apartment was filled with more familiar voices. Jimin and Taehyung had arrived together, their energy instantly brightening the space. Jimin. Our little prince. Where is he? We brought gifts. Mostly for Soo-min, but one for his Uma too. Taehyung presented Y/N with a beautiful, soft cashmere blanket for when you're feeding him and need to be extra cozy. The kindness, the way they all seamlessly integrated into this new chapter of their lives, made Y/NS heart swell. They cooed over the sleeping baby through the baby monitor, talked loudly over each other, and dug into the food. It was chaotic, but it was their chaos. At one point, Jimin sidled up to Y/N, while Jungkook was being playfully teased by Taehyung about his dad bod, which was non-existent. Jimin, Nuna, you look radiant today. Really? Is everything okay? You seemed a little stressed last week. Jimin's empathy was a gentle, perceptive force. Y/N smiled, touched Y/N. Everything is perfect, Jimina, more than perfect. Jungkook, he just knows exactly what I need, even before I do. Jimin followed her gaze to Jungkook, who was laughing at something Taehyung said, his head thrown back. Jimin's eyes softened. Jimin, he loves you so much, Nuna. We all see it. It's in everything he does. The afternoon was a symphony of laughter, shared stories, and the comfortable familiarity of a family that had chosen each other. And through it all, Y/N and Jungkook kept exchanging secret smiles, their own private world existing beautifully within the joyful noise of their friends. Their secret from the morning was a precious gem they carried together, making their bond feel even more unshakable/n. The present is always built upon the foundation of the past. As Y/N watches her husband with their son, her mind drifts back to the journey that brought them here, the whirlwind, the challenges, and the unwavering love that held them together. Let's take a walk down memory lane. Later that evening, after their friends had left with promises to return soon, the apartment was quiet again. Jungkook was giving Soo-min a bath, his deep, off-key singing voice drifting from the bathroom. Y/N stood in the doorway, watching the scene. Her giant of a husband was sitting on a small stool, his sleeves rolled up to his elbows, carefully supporting their tiny son in the warm water. Soo-min was kicking his little feet, splashing water everywhere, utterly entranced by his apple Y/N, thinking, this is the same man who once stood on a stage in a leather jacket, commanding the attention of millions with a single glance. Now he commands the attention of one tiny human with a rubber ducky. Her mind drifted back, years ago, to their first official date. She'd been so nervous, waiting for the world-famous Jeon Jungkook. He'd shown up, not in a flashy car, but on a motorcycle, handing her a helmet with a shy smile. JK. I thought we could get away from everything for a while. He'd taken her to a quiet hill overlooking the city. They'd talked for hours, not as idol and fan, but just as Jungkook and Y/N. He was surprisingly shy, incredibly funny, and so genuine it made her heart ache. She remembered the first time he told her he loved her. It was during a late-night video call when he was on tour in America. He looked exhausted, but happy to see her. JK. Y/N. It's weird. No matter how loud the crowd is, all I can hear is your voice in my head. I think, no, I know. I'm in love with you. Then came the challenges. The intense public scrutiny when their relationship was accidentally revealed. The hateful comments, the pressure from the media, the fear of hurting his career and his band. There were nights she cried, wondering if their love was worth the global storm it had created. But Jungkook never wavered. JK. Let them talk. They don't know you. They don't know us. This, he'd said, placing her hand over his heart. This is the only thing that matters. The memory of his proposal was crystal clear. It was on Jeju Island, after a concert. He'd arranged for a private picnic on the beach under a blanket of stars. He was a jumble of nerves, fumbling with the ring box. JK. Y/N. My life was loud and colorful before you, but it never made sense. You are the melody that makes all the noise into a song. Will you make me the happiest man in the world? Will you marry me? And then, the memory of finding out she was pregnant. The sheer, unadulterated joy on his face, the way he'd picked her up and spun her around, laughing and crying at the same time. JK. We're having a baby. We're having a baby. A little person, half you, half me. Aish, I hope he has your eyes. Now, watching him lift a clean, sweet-smelling Soo-min from the bath, wrapping him carefully in a fluffy towel, she saw the culmination of all those moments. The rebellious boy, the The global superstar, the devoted boyfriend, the steadfast fiancé, was now this. A father, humming a BTS song as a lullaby while drying his son's hair. With unimaginable gentleness he looked up and caught her staring, a soft smile gracing his lips. "JK, what are you thinking about, my love?" Y/N walked into the bathroom, wrapping her arms around both her husband and her son, completing the circle Y/N. "I was just thinking about how every version of you I've ever known was just leading to this one. This is my favorite version of Jeon Jungkook." He kissed her temple, his heart full. "JK, this is the only version that truly matters. Theirs," he nodded towards the framed photo of his 6 bandmates in the hall, "was the prologue. This, with you and him, is the whole story. A/N. Even the most perfect love stories have moments of doubt and fear. It's in navigating these storms together that the roots of a relationship grow deeper and stronger." Here, a moment of parental panic becomes another testament to their teamwork. A few days later, their idyllic bubble faced its first real test. Soo-min developed a slight fever. It was nothing serious. The pediatrician assured them over the phone, just a common cold. But for first-time parents, it was terrifying. The baby was fussier than ever. His nose was stuffy, and he was refusing to feed again, this time out of sheer discomfort. Y/N's anxiety was through the roof. She'd been pacing the floor with him for what felt like hours, trying every trick in the book to get him to eat, to sleep, to just stop crying. Y/N, voice cracking with exhaustion. "Please, Soo-min, please. You have to eat, just a little bit." The baby just wailed, turning his head away, his little face red and miserable. The sound was a physical pain in Y/N's heart. The frustration and helplessness from the other morning returned tenfold. Now mixed with fear, Jungkook had been on a work call in his studio, but emerged when the crying didn't subside. He took one look at Y/N's pale, tear-streaked face and immediately took charge. "JK, give him to me." He didn't ask, he stated it softly but firmly. He took the crying baby and held him against his chest, his hand supporting Soo-min's head. "JK, SHHH, Appa's here. Appa's got you." He began to pace the room, his walk a slow, steady rock. He hummed a low, soothing tune, an old trot song his own grandfather used to sing to him. The deep, resonant sound of his voice and the steady rhythm of his heartbeat began to work their magic. Soo-min's frantic cries softened to miserable whimpers. Then, Jungkook looked at Y/N. "JK, sit down, love. Relax your shoulders. He can feel your tension." Y/N sank onto the couch, her body trembling with spent adrenaline. Jungkook came and sat beside her, still holding their now calmer son. "JK, remember the other morning," he said, his voice calm and steady. "When we showed him together." Y/N nodded, fresh tears in her eyes. This felt different, more desperate. Jungkook didn't hesitate. He repeated his tender act, not as a playful, intimate demonstration, as a calm, reassuring guide. He was a pillar of strength in the storm of her anxiety. He was showing their son and reminding her that comfort was always available, that they were a team. He helped Soo-min latch, and this time, perhaps soothed by his father's unwavering calm and the familiar scent and taste, the baby began to feed, his breathing evening out as his hunger was finally sated. The storm had passed. The only sounds in the room were the soft, contented sounds of a feeding baby, and Y/N's shaky, relieved sighs. Jungkook kept his arm around her, pulling her close so her head rested on his shoulder. JK. See, we can do this. Together. There's nothing we can't handle, you and I. In that moment, Y/N didn't just feel in love with him. She felt a profound, soul-deep gratitude for his presence. He wasn't just her lover. He was her partner, her rock, her co-pilot in this wild, beautiful, and sometimes terrifying journey of parenthood. The thrilling, passionate love of their early days had matured into this, a fortified, unshakable love built on a foundation of mutual respect and unwavering support/N. And so, we reach the end of this particular tale. But for Y/N and Jungkook, it's not an end. It's a promise of 1,000 more beginnings. This is a glimpse into their happily ever after, which is, as you'll see, beautifully and perfectly ordinary weeks turned into months. Soo-min's cold healed, and he grew stronger, more alert, and even more interactive. The challenging early days became a distant memory, replaced by the joyful milestones. His first real smile, directed at both of them simultaneously. His first attempt at rolling over the memory of that tender morning in the nursery became a sacred part of their history, a private touchstone of the depths of their love and teamwork. It was never spoken of again, but it lived in the way Jungkook would instinctively step in when Y/N was overwhelmed, and in the way Y/N trusted him implicitly with their son's most fragile needs. One evening, they were at a small, casual gathering at Yoongi's studio. The hyungs were all there, and Soo-min was being passed around like the most precious parcel, showered with love and affection from his 6 uncles. Namjoon was holding him, carefully pointing out the titles of books on his shelf. Yoongi was letting the baby grip his finger. A rare, soft smile on his face. Hoseok was making funny faces, eliciting delighted gurgles from Soo-min. Y/N and Jungkook were sitting on the couch, slightly apart from the group, just watching. Jungkook had his arm draped around her shoulders, his fingers gently playing with the ends of her hair. Y/N leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling a contentment so deep it was almost palpable. Y/N, we made him kook. We made this perfect little person. Jungkook looked down at her, his eyes reflecting the soft studio lights, making them look like liquid stars. JK. We did, and we're making a pretty perfect life, too. He leaned down and captured her lips in a soft, sweet kiss. It was a kiss that held the past, the struggles, the joy, the passion. It held the present, the contentment, partnership, the overwhelming love for their son. And it held the future, a promise of 1,000 more mornings, 1,000,000 more kisses, and a lifetime of growing old together. Later that night, back in their own bed with Soo-min sleeping soundly in the crib beside them, Y/N lay curled against Jungkook's side, her head on his chest. The steady thump-thump of his heart was her favorite lullaby. Y/N. Whispering into the dark, Jungkook, JK, voice sleepy. Y/N. That morning, with Soo-min and the milk, that was the moment I fell in love with you all over again, in a completely new way. He was quiet for a moment, then he tightened his arm around her. JK. For me, it was the moment I realized what our love could create. Not just a baby, but this unbreakable team. You are my everything. Y/N my wife, the mother of my child, my best friend, my always. As Y/N drifted off to sleep, safe in the circle of his arms, with the soft sound of their sons breathing nearby, she knew this was more than a fanfiction, more than a dream. This was her reality. A reality built with Jeon Jungkook, a man whose love was as fierce as it was tender, and a love story that was only just beginning. Their forever was here, and it was more romantic than anything she could have ever written for herself.